have you ever just paused and noticed that underneath all the noise and color of the internet, there's this quiet, invisible structure? It's pretty much everywhere. Every social media feed you scroll, every university site you log into, every online store you visit. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on one of the simplest but most powerful tools that brings order to all that chaos, the humble list.
But before we get into all of that, let's make this personal for a second. Just think about your to-do list for today. Maybe you've got one written down somewhere, or maybe it's just kind of floating around in your head.
Yeah, it probably looks a little something like this, right? A few simple items, jotted down so you don't forget what's next. The super basic act of just listing things out, well, it's something we all do pretty much every single day.
All right, so let's zoom out a bit, because that simple, everyday idea, the list, it's actually one of the absolute core building blocks of the entire digital world. Seriously. From the stuff you see on a shopping site to the files in your cloud drive, lists are how we organize digital information. They give us a clean, readable structure that our brains just get. And it's not just for us, you know. This structure helps search engines figure out what's important, and it makes websites way more accessible for everyone. It's truly the invisible architecture of the web.
So how does the web actually pull this off? Well, it turns out there are really three main ways to organize information into lists. Each one has its own special job, and I promise you've seen them all about 1,000 times before.
First up, we've got the unordered list. And here's the key thing to remember. With these, the sequence of the items just doesn't matter. You could shuffle them all around, and the list would mean the exact same thing.
The absolute easiest way to remember this one? Just think of it as the shopping list, right? It doesn't really matter if you grab the milk before the bread, so long as you get everything on the list by the time you leave.
So, anytime you see those little bullet points next to ingredients in a recipe or product features or a bunch of brainstormed ideas, you're looking at an unordered list. The order isn't the point, the content is.
Okay, so what happens when the order does matter? Well, that brings us to our second type, the ordered list. And just like the name says, here the sequence is everything. This isn't just a collection of items. It's a progression, a series of steps.
So if the first one was a shopping list, this one is the instruction list. Think about a recipe or directions to a friend's place, or the worst, assembly instructions for furniture. If you change the order, you end up with a very, very different result. Probably a disaster, let's be honest.
And you see these everywhere. The numbered steps for how to submit an assignment online, rankings for a top 10 list, or, just like this example, a series of important deadlines. Each number tells you not just what to do, but when you need to do it.
Now this third type is a little bit different. It's called a definition list. This one isn't about single items, it's about pairs. You have a term, and then you have its definition. A word and its meaning. A concept and its explanation.
The perfect way to think about this one, it's the glossary list. It's exactly like what you'd find in the back of a textbook, right? Neatly laying out all the key terms and what they actually mean.
And you can see how clean this is. The term is kind of set off to the side, and then you get its indented description right below. It's just a really elegant way to show that clear this means that relationship.
But here, this is where it gets really interesting. These lists aren't just separate things. You can actually combine them. The most powerful idea here is that lists can be nested inside of other lists. You could have a numbered list inside of a bulleted list, which might contain another list. It's the exact same logic you use when you create an outline for a paper.
Okay, so that's it. Those are the three basic types of lists that build the web: unordered, ordered, and definition. It's pretty simple when you break it down, right? But you might be wondering, what am I supposed to do with this knowledge?
And that is the absolute best part. You don't have to do anything with it. Seriously, this isn't an assignment. There's not going to be a test. All you have to do is notice. The next time you're scrolling through a course catalog or reading an article online or looking at a product page, just take half a second to see the structure underneath. See if you can spot the quiet lists that are holding the whole thing together.
Once you start seeing these patterns, you start to understand the web in a much calmer, clearer way. You realize it's not just some random jumble of information. There's a real intentional design to it.
And that intentionality all comes back to a simple truth. The research this explainer is based on says it perfectly. One of the most effective ways of structuring a website or its contents is to use lists. It's that simple, it's that powerful, and it's easy for all of us to understand.
So the next time you find yourself making a simple to-do list, just remember that you're using the same fundamental tool that builds our entire digital world. Lists are just the quiet, unseen structures that gently bring a little bit of order to all the noise.